Good day, everybody, and welcome back to the channel Master Mariner Amit Sangwan. In this video, we will see the cargo pipelines on board a tanker ship. Now, in the previous video, we have seen the pipelines on the ballast pipelines on the ship. Now, the cargo pipelines are going to be a little bit more complicated. It is not as simple as the ballast pipelines. Okay, I hope you have understood the ballast pipelines. Now let us see the cargo pipelines. Now this is a mimic diagram of the cargo pipelines on board a tanker ship. Now this is a product tanker, but you'll find the same kind of pipelines also on an Aframax crude oil tanker or a Suezmax crude oil tanker. So let us see this. Let me first enlarge this. This is basically in three sections. If you see this section is the manifold section. Okay, manifold is the area where you connect the shore pipelines. So we will see this afterwards. So this is the manifold section. These are the lines on the deck. You see this black line. From this black line to this area is the pipelines inside the pump room. And you see these black lines. This is basically the cargo tank area and the pipelines in the cargo tanks. A small familiarization here before we start with the pipelines. Let me first enlarge this. Okay. Now this is the cargo tank area. More. Okay. So what you see on your screen is the cargo tank area. This is number one cargo oil tank port, number one cargo oil tank starboard. This is the boundary. Number two port, number two starboard, number three port, number three starboard, number four port, number four starboard, five port, five starboard, six port, six starboard, then slope port and slope starboard. Okay, so these are the tanks, 1 to 6 wings and slope wings. If you take one particular tank, for example, one port COT, you will have, this is the cargo line, and you'll have two valves here. One valve is this, one valve is this. Okay. This is the main valve. You see this, the green thing here, which is basically an indicator of how much percentage the valve is open or closed. So this is called as a controllable valve because you can control this valve, whether it is 5% open or 10% open or 15% open. The other valve is the stripper valve, which is uncontrollable. It is either 100% full or either 100% shut or 100% open. You cannot control this valve. So this is an uncontrollable valve. So main valve, stripper valve. The stripper valve, the pipe on which the stripper valve is there, it goes a little bit more deeper inside the bell mouth, so it can take suction. The main valve is a little bit higher than the stripper valve. So each tank has two valves: main valve, stripper valve, main valve, stripper valve, main valve, stripper valve, main valve, stripper valve. You'll see this, all the tanks have these valves. Okay. From this tank, on every tanker, not on chemical tankers, but typical oil tankers, you'll find three pipelines are there, or three groups are there. Number one group, number two group, number three group. We could also say number one line, number two line, number three line. All the ships you'll find that one wing cargo oil tank and four wing cargo oil tank are connected to one line. So this is number one line. This line, you see this blue line is number one line. This is connected to number one wings is connected to this line. Number four is also connected to this line. So this is number one line. In between number one cargo oil tanks and number four cargo oil tanks, there is another valve, okay, which is called as the bottom line master. Okay. Now this valve separates number one and number 4 cargo oil tanks. Okay, so we have understood pipelines for number 1 and number 4. The next group is number 2 and number 5. If you see, number 2 and number 5 are on the same line, so that's number 2 group. Okay, then this is number 3 tank and number 6 tank, and if you see, they are on the same pipeline. Between number 2 and number 5 there is another bottom line master. Between number 3 and number 6 there's another line master. Okay, now number 1, number 2, number 3, there are 3 lines. These can be interconnected to each other using these valves. You see this valve, this interconnects number 1 line and number 2 line. These are called as the tank crossovers 2. Similarly, this number 2 line can be connected to number 3 line by these valves. Again, bottom crossovers. So number 1 is connected to number 2, and number 2 can be connected to number 3. Number 1 can also be connected to number 3. There's something called as double valve segregation. Double valve segregation means between 2 tanks, there are 2 valves, not including the tank valves. So if we say that between number 1 cargo oil tank and number 2 cargo oil tank, is there 2 valve segregation? That are they segregated by 2 valves? So that is yes, because we are not counting the tank valves here. 1 wings, also 2 wings, tank valves are not counted, but still we have 2 valves in between them. So the chances of cargo being contaminated or getting in contact with other cargo placed in the other tank is not there, because there are 2 valves. This is a requirement by the charter, is that there should be 2 valve segregation between 2 separate parcels of cargo or 2 separate grades of cargo. So this is called 2 valve segregation. If we say number 1 and number 4, there is only 1 valve segregation. Okay. So mostly when we load 2 different grades of cargos, we always go for a 2 valve segregation. We load in 1 particular grade in 1 and 4 wings. If second grade is required, we load in 2 and 5 wings, and third grade is required, we load in 3 and 6 wings, or you can interchange them. So from 1 to 6, the pipelines are simple. Now if you see that these are the slop tanks. Slop tanks are basically used for tank cleaning, putting the residues of the cargo tanks or tank washings inside these slop tanks. On this particular ship, if you see, there is a slop tank here, slop port and slop starboard. There are 2 valves here, tank valves, stripper valve, main valve. Similarly, for slop starboard, stripper valve, main valve. Apart from this, if you see, both these slop tanks are interconnected to all the 3 cargo pipelines. Like using these 2 valves, the slop tanks are connected to number 1 line. Using these 2 valves, the slop tanks are connected to number 3 line. Using these 2 valves, the slop tanks are connected to number 2 line. So you can interconnect these slop tanks, valves, or slop tanks to any line, wherever you need. Okay. So this is in the pipelines inside the cargo oil tanks. Now let us go inside the pump room section. Okay. From this black line here, this area is inside the cargo tanks. And all this area is inside the pump room. If we go inside the pump room, this is number 1 line coming inside the pump room. This is number 2 line coming inside the pump room. This is number 3 line coming inside the pump room. Okay. There are 3 valves here. 1 valve is number 1 line, 1 valve is number 2 line, number 1, and 1 valve is number 3 line. Okay. These are called as the bulkhead masters. If you close this valve, no cargo will flow into the pump rooms from any of these lines. Okay. So the pump room is isolated. Okay. This valve is closed here. This is the pump room bulkhead master. Okay. Similarly, with number 1 line, we follow number 1 line. It goes to number 1 pump. Here is number 1 pump. This is the suction valve for number one pump. So you can discharge the cargo from number one line using number one pump. But if you see here, there is a common line here. This one is a common line. All the lines are connected to this common line. Okay. Number one line, you open these two valves, it is connected to the common line. Number two line, open these valves, connected to the common line. Number three, open these common valves, these two valves, and you're connected to the common line. These are called as pump room crossovers. So if you want to pump out number three line using number one pump, you can do it. You open these two valves, cargo comes in the common line. Open these two valves, cargo comes in number one line, and from number one line it goes, open the suction valve, it goes into the cargo oil pump number one. Okay, so this is cargo oil pump number one. Similarly, if you see this number two line, it is going into cargo oil pump number two. This can also take suction from number one and number three line, and you can also keep it isolated just by keeping these valves closed. So if you want to keep it isolated, you keep these valves closed. Number two pump will be used only to pump out cargo from number two line, but it can be used to pump out cargo from any line using the common line. Similar is the case with number three COP. Okay, fine. So we have understood the COP is here and discharging here. Okay. Now, let's say you want to unload, you want to carry out unloading, discharging. So you're using pump number one. Okay. So what you do is suction side should be fully open. You open tanks, make the lines common. If you don't want to keep it common, then you open tanks, valves on number one line, open the suction valve. Keep the discharge valve closed. Okay, this is the discharge valve. Now there are two valves on the discharge side. One is a pneumatic valve, part of automatic unloading system, and the other is a hydraulic valve, can be a manual valve. So normally it is a hydraulic valve, which is a controllable valve. You see this green indication here. So you keep this valve closed, open the pneumatic valve. That pneumatic valve you can open from CCR. Then follow the line. This valve is kept closed. Follow this line. Now you have come on deck. This area, above this area is on deck. Okay. So above this area is on deck now. So cargo has come here in this number one line. Cargo has come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here. If you reach here, there is another valve here. This is called as the line master, top line master. Open this valve. Then if you see, the cargo will come here, and there is another valve here. This has to be kept closed. This is called as a drop valve. If you keep it open, the cargo will fall back into the tanks, which we don't want. So this has to be kept closed. Follow this line, go here, go here. Okay, so we have reached here. This valve is closed, drop valve is closed. Follow the line, go here, go here, go here, go here, go here, go here, go here. Now we have reached here. Suppose your ship is connected, the manifold is connected on the port side, your ship is port side alongside. So cargo has to go on port side, go here, and this has to be open. This is the manifold valve. The shore connection is made here. Okay. If you go reverse, cargo is going to be like this, like this, like this. These two valves have to be kept closed. I'll tell you what it is later on. This is on the starboard side. This has to be kept closed. You have to go here, here, here. This has to be kept closed. This has to be kept open. So now we start the pump. As we have discussed earlier, also centrifugal pumps have to be started with the discharge valve closed. Once the pump has started, call the engine room. Okay, start the pump, put the pump on rolling. Engine room will inform you pump on rolling. Later on, you can take control of the pumps. So once you have control on the pump, at minimum RPM, open the discharge valve slowly. And then ask the manifold whether cargo is flowing at the manifold. Then ask the shore side whether they are receiving cargo on the shore side. So that checks the lineup that there is no leak, cargo is being flown. Later in, you can increase the revolutions of the pump or increase the speed of the pump and you can increase the discharge rate. Okay, this is discharging the cargo. Similarly, if you want to discharge cargo using number 2 COP, open the suction valve. Suction you can take from any of the 3 lines, or you can keep isolated and take suction only from number 2 line. Open the pneumatic valve here, which is not shown here. Close the discharge valve. Open the line master valve here. Close the drop valve here. And let's go to the manifold area now. Again, we're using number 2 line. Open this valve, close this valve, and you're on port side alongside. Open the manifold port side alongside, close the manifold on starboard side, and cargo will flow out. But for example, the shore connection is made at number 1 manifold, and you want to use number 2 pump. So what you can do is you just follow the line here. Manifold is not connected at number 2, so number 2 manifold has to be kept closed. Port side also, starboard side also. If you see here, if you open, there are 2 valves here. Open these 2 valves. Again, the cargo will go to a common line. This is a common line. Okay, so you open these 2 valves. Cargo has come here. Open these 2 valves. You open these 2 valves, and you will see that cargo has reached here at number 1 line, and then you can discharge that cargo using number 1 manifold. Now, these 2 valves here and these 2 valves here are called as the top crossovers. Again, you can common up the line here at top manifold. You can interconnect number 1 line to number 2 line, number 2 line to number 3 line, number 3 line to number 1 line. Because there is a common line, you just need to open these valves. These are called as the top crossovers. Okay, this is number 1 manifold, number 2 manifold, number 3 manifold on port side, number 1 manifold, number 2 manifold, number 3 manifold on the starboard side. And this is number 1 line, number 2 line, number 3 line. Simple. Okay, this is how you discharge the cargo. You've seen the pump room, you've seen the manifold. Now, for example, you want to load the cargo. Manifold is connected here at number 1 manifold. So what you do, open number 1 manifold. That has to be opened at the last, just for the sake of understanding. Let's open this number 1 manifold. Number 1 manifold is open. Cargo is going to come here. Cargo has arrived here. Cargo is going to follow this line. Cargo is following here. Now we want the cargo to go into the tank. So we open this drop line. This drop line is at the tank, is the deck level. After this, the cargo is going to go into the tanks. Okay. Close this line master because we don't want cargo to go into the pump room. So drop line is open. Cargo has reached here in the bottom line. From here, you can take cargo in any tank you want. You want to take into 4 wings, it will flow directly into the 4 wings. You want to take into 1 wings, open this valve, cargo will flow into 1 wings. You want to take into 2 wings, open this valve, open these 2 valves, and cargo will flow into 2 wings. You want to take into 3 wings, open this valve, open these 2 valves, open this valve, open this valve, open this valve, cargo will flow into 3 wings. Okay, so you can common up the lines from here. This kind of line is known as a ring main system, commonly found in product tankers. So you can common up from here. Second is you can common up from here also at the top. Cargo has reached here. Open these 2 valves. Cargo is into the common line. You want a number 2 line, so open these 2 valves. Cargo is into the number 2 line now. Open the drop line number 2, and cargo has come into the number 2 line here. From here, you can put it into 3 wings or 6 wings, wherever you want. So you can common up from the top manifold here. You can common up from using the bottom crossovers. So these are top crossovers, bottom tank crossovers. That's loading part. And you can take cargo in any tank you like. Okay. Very simple to understand. Now, this is bulk loading and bulk unloading. For example, now you have to strip the tanks. The tank levels are going down. And you have to strip using a stripper pump. Okay, fine. So here is the stripper pump. This is a stripper pump. When you want to strip using the stripper pump, what you're going to do is you want to stop the main pump, stop the main pump, stop the main pump, close all the pipelines. Okay. Now let's see the stripper pump. The stripper pump is here. It's a reciprocating pump. You want to take suction in from the tank using a stripper pump because at low levels it is effective. At higher levels, main pump is effective. So you want to open this valve, suction valve. Okay. follow the line, open this valve. Now, when you open this valve, basically you will be taking suction from the common line in the pump room. Then you can open any line. Like you want to take suction from 1 and 4 wings, you open these two valves, you will be able to take suction from number 1 line. You want to take suction from number 2 line, open these two valves. You want to take suction from number 3 line, open these two valves, and cargo will flow from here into the reciprocating pump. Now, here is the difference. Centrifugal pump, when you're starting, you have to keep the discharge valve closed. Okay, you have to build some discharge pressure, then you open the discharge valve. But in case of reciprocating pumps, you should not pressurize the discharge valve. You should not keep the discharge line pressurized. Before starting the pump, you have to make sure that your discharge valve is open. So this valve has to be open. Also, the valves on the manifold has to be open. The discharge line has to be clear. You can keep the suction line closed. Okay. So cargo is flowed into the stripper pump. It is coming into the stripper pump here. This is also called as the Marpole line. So it is coming here, going here, going here, going here, going here, going here, and then going here, going here, going here, 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 here. It has reached here. It has reached the manifold area. We will see how it goes out from the manifold. So this was your stripper line. It goes here. Now you see the stripper line is connected with the manifolds. All the manifolds, all this green line is a stripper line only, Marpole line. So your number 1 manifold is connected. So cargo is reached here. This is called as the Marpole drain valve. You open the Marpole drain valve, cargo is reached here, will go out. Close this manifold valve. If you want to discharge this valve, discharge this cargo through number 2 manifold, open Marpole line drain on number 2 manifold, close the manifold number 2. Similarly, you can discharge from number 3 on port side or from starboard side. It's very simple. That's how stripping is carried out. If you want to use the adductor, now there is a stripping cargo adductor also here. So this is a cargo adductor. Okay, adductor is just a shape of a pipe. What you're going to do is, using any of the COPs, like this COP or this COP or this COP, you're going to take suction from any of the cargo tanks, normally taken from the slop tank. And like how you discharge, you're going to open the discharge valve here. Cargo is going to go here. Okay, the pneumatic discharge valve has to be opened and the main controllable discharge valve has to be closed. Then this valve has to be open. When you open this valve, cargo flows here into the common line. From the common line, it goes here, goes here, goes here, goes here, goes here. Open this valve. This gives the drive to the adductor. This is the discharge of the adductor. The discharge of the adductor then goes into the slop starboard tank. And when the adductor is running, a vacuum will be created on the suction side. So this is the suction side. When you open this valve, this common line is again into vacuum, or suction is created into the common line. Now you can suck using number 1 line or number 2 line or number 3 line, and stripping will be carried out and all the cargo will be put into the slop tank starboard here. Then the slop tank starboard, you can direct discharge to the shore like normal discharging. Now if you see this line here on the stripper pump, one line was used for stripping here, all the common line. The other line, if you see, it is directly going into the slop starboard tank. The reason for this line going into the slop starboard tank is you can take direct suction. You can take direct suction from the slop tank at the end and you can discharge this cargo outside. You can open this valve, put it in the common line, and using any of the COPs, you can discharge it. Okay. Or you can just open this valves here, put it into line here, start that COP and discharge it outside. So this, I've simplified this pipeline diagram. There's one more line, the tank cleaning line. On crude oil tankers, you'll find the cow line. So this is that line. So when you're using the cow line and the tank cleaning line are used in conjunction with the adductor. So when you're washing the tanks or you're crude oil washing the tanks, whatever you're washing at the same time, you should strip also. So the adductor is running, it is stripping at the same time. What you're doing is you open this valve, you will have cargo or water, whatever medium you're using on the deck. and you can start your tank cleaning machines. Wash that. At the same time, the Adductor will suck that or strip that particular tank and put in the starboard tank. Okay, we'll not see this tank cleaning line today in this. So gentlemen, this is the pipelines on the ship. Okay. This is the mimic diagram. When you actually see the pipelines, you have to actually trace these pipelines when you go on the ship. Okay, this is on the diagram you've seen. You have to take out a printout of this diagram, and as a chief officer, as a duty officer, as a cadet, as a pump, and as a crew member, you have to actually trace where these valves are, at least the valves on the deck and the valves in the pump room, so you immediately know what is what. There's another line here which I'll show you. This one, stripping the top lines. Now when you're discharging the cargo, you have to strip everything. Okay. If you see, if you open this valve, if you open this valve, and if you open this valve, the cargo from top will fall by gravity here, 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 and here. Now if you open this valve, this is called as a top line drain, this is called as a pump drain. If you open these two valves, cargo by gravity is going to flow here in this line and here. Similarly, from this pump, it is going to come here. Similarly, from this pump, it is going to come here. Then you start your stripper pump, open this suction valve, and you discharge this cargo using the Marpole line or your stripper valve. So your top lines will be stripped like this. There is one more funda here which you have to understand, that when you're pumping out this cargo from the top lines, when you're creating a suction with your stripper pump, there has to be something which has to break the vacuum. Why? Because this is a closed system. If you're sucking from the pipeline, vacuum is created, but you need something to replace that cargo. If you don't replace that cargo, then that suction won't be effective. So how you're going to replace that cargo inside the pipe? Like from the cargo tanks, if you're sucking out the cargo, what you're doing, you're putting IG inside, right? So similarly, you need something to be put inside the pipeline so the cargo is sucked out. What you do is you do the same. You put IG or air. We don't put air because that might cause fire or explosion, that causes explosion hazard. So you put IG. So how to put IG? What we do here is, if you see this pipe here, this is a common line of the manifold. This common line is connected to a gooseneck. Okay, from here you can put air, and at the same time it goes to one of the cargo tanks from where IG or cargo vapors are sucked into this common line. You open all those three crossovers here, and since you're stripping the line, the top lines, the line masters are open. So as the cargo is getting sucked by the stripper pump, the vacuum which is created inside the pipelines will be broken, and IG or cargo vapors will be sucked in from the cargo tank. This is called the gooseneck valve, breaking the vacuum. And you can strip the pumps, the top lines, the pumps, the top lines, the pumps, and the top lines using the stripper pump. Okay. So very simple to understand. I hope you've understood this pipeline diagrams here. Cargo pipelines. In the earlier video, we've seen the ballast pipelines. Gentlemen, thank you for watching this video. I hope you've understood this. If you have any questions or any doubts, you can put in the comment box. I'll try to reply to it. And please don't forget to subscribe this channel and share it with your friends. Thank you. Have a great day.